Welcome, everyone, to the SuperPhone Standard podcast. We are thrilled to have a very special guest with us, Quintel Harcum. He is a founder as well as the owner of Good Part and Company, which is a juice bar and health cafe out of Baltimore. He's also a coach who assists men on their wellness journey. Quintel, thank you again for joining us.
Rob, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. I'm pretty excited right now.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So let's just kind of take it back to where you started from, right? So what was the motive for you to really just get started in this journey on how you really got started in the food and beverage industry, and what really inspired you to open your cafe?
So before I opened my cafe, I had already been plant-based for almost 10 years at the time. So I started my journey back in 2011. I kind of just knew around a certain age I wanted to go plant-based. And really it was in the back of my mind. My dad passed away in a car accident. And
Okay.
then later we found out that he had a heart attack while driving. And he had the heart attack because he had high blood pressure. So at the time, he was working on it along with his wife at the time. And he was doing better, but it takes time to work through those things. So in the back of my mind, I kind of knew, if you know how you go to the doctors all the time and they ask you your family medical history.
Right.
And so my mom, she had a medical history. She's a 22-year cancer survivor. So that was, kind of on the female side. But for my dad, I'm like, well, if that's in my history, it's a likely that I could possibly get high blood pressure or high cholesterol. So I knew that I was going to make some changes going forward.
Mhm.
That was like at 25. Eventually, it happened, and I started to make the changes. I matured. I figured out what I wanted to do. So that sparked my health journey, and plant based just felt right for me. More from a health standpoint. I took that, and I just was living the lifestyle. I kind of became a touch point for a lot of my friends and people I was around, just asking about healthy food options. What do you eat? How do you get protein? Put me on to some places to go. Try some new salads, stuff like that. And
Mhm.
then I knew I wanted to get out of my 9 to 5, and I needed to kind of get re-energized. So like really kind of focusing on my diet helped me get my energy back, because I had a different business before where I was like doing parties, so I was up late and all that jazz.
Right.
Doing events and all. So I need to regain my energy, helping improving my diet helped me do that. And then I knew I wanted to get back into entrepreneurship. And I just went with the thing that seemed to be like what most people was coming to me for, right? If people are asking questions, then it's possible, and you can answer those questions, then you possibly have business there. And I felt like smoothies and juice were the easy entry points for most people, right? You can't just start telling people that they got high blood pressure or that they gaining too much weight and how to lose the weight. You just give them something that they can get used to, right? So everybody has a favorite fruit or veggie that they can get used to. I put it in the juice, put it in the smoothie, and then everything started to build from there. And I kind of started Good Part and Company.
I give it to you, man. At 25, it's tough to make an adjustment on diet. So
Yeah, it was. That's why I said it took me a little while, but at 25, I knew I had to make the change, based on what happened with my dad.
okay, so now when it comes to you pivoting and getting back into your entrepreneurship business and really building from there, how did you really discover that Superphone was the right fit? Or how did you really go about feeling as though you needed to add a text message list to your business?
Right. So during my nightlife events, that was like early 2000s. So email list became a thing. So I had the email list for Good Part and Company, and that was cool. But what I realized is that people were so used to coming to the cafe and seeing me that they wanted more of me. They needed more of the connection, because I was basically doing consultations from the cafe. Right. They would come in and buy a smoothie, and then talk to me about whatever they had going on. So I was like, you know what? Let me put the QR code up and capture their phone number as well. And I saw Ryan Leslie talking about it. And I was like, well, I'm not an artist, so I'm not moving around the country going on tour. But I see the value in having these more personal, more intimate or direct connection to people. I thought that text messaging was a bit invasive, but when I started to hear about, Superphone and a lot of the other artists that I actually follow, like Nipsey Hussle at the time or Talib Kweli, like I understood what was going on there. And I was like, well, you can just use that for any business. Like I can just swap out my email list or at least add on to it and text the person, because they live right around the corner. Like emailing them, it might take them too long to hit me back, right? But if I text them, like, yo, I got a smoothie on sale this week. There's some new, whatever's going on. And that's when it clicked. I was like, I'm gonna at least give it a shot. So I started out with like the entry plan or whatever. I was like, I'm gonna at least give it a shot and see if it worked. And the list grew, by the hundreds really fast. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, man. It's exactly as you mentioned. When it comes to text messaging, it is, some people feel it's a sacred space, but
Hmm.
the people who want to learn from you and the people who want to uh, take any information that you have to offer or any discounts, they want to hear from you regardless. So that's how you know, okay, those are the real customers. Those are the customers who really want to really expand on any additional uh, products or offerings or even coaching that you may introduce down the line. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
great that you really started tapping into SMS, because email is one thing, but then adding text messages on top of that, it really just gets the message across a lot quicker.
Yeah, and there was certain customers who kind of prefer text messages. I was surprised, but there are certain customers who prefer text messages because it's just like a more immediate reminder. Like, oh yeah, you know what? I was going to ride past that part of Baltimore today. I'm gonna stop by the cafe. Or I
Mhm.
have a lot of friends or people that I met through the health cafe through Good Part and Company, who the part of the city it's in is a destination, but it's not great parking. So people only come by when they like in that part of town, or they were like actually coming to see me. So I need to be at top of mind somehow, right? So just sitting on a text, every once in a while, let them know, oh yeah, it's about time to check in with Good Part Company.
Gotcha. Nice. Okay, great. So now for anyone who's an aspiring entrepreneur, anyone who wants to learn a little bit more on how they can go about building their list, whether it's an email list, whether it's a contact list through text messaging, what
Hmm.
advice would you go about to those business owners to really just implement the trust for people to feel comfortable? Okay, giving you their phone number and feeling as though you're not going to spam them or you're not going to constantly bother them
Yeah,
by giving.
yeah. It's like I have trauma around it. I still feel like if I get a text from a business and like, well, why are you texting me? But I get it, I understand it. But when you see that little 5-digit code, you know that it's a promo. But with Superphone, it's a real phone number, it's a real contact, it's a real uh, a contact card. It's really me, right? No matter what automations, and it's really me. So for anybody who's interested in building their contact list, especially no matter what business you have, I say two things to really get the trust. Make it convenient. So like my POS faced the door when you enter Good Part and Company, and
Mhm.
taped like we hustling it up. So I taped the QR code to the front of the POS. So as soon as you walk in, the QR code to get on the text list is right there. So make it convenient, right? Before I would have to ask the customer for their information, and they didn't mind, right? They were buying a smoothie or buying a juice, and say, hey, can we get your email and then maybe your phone number? That kind of holds up the line. If you got a few people and you're trying to get their name, they got to type it in. You're trying to type things on an iPad. Not that convenient, right? So enters the QR code. Make it convenient. Make it convenient for them to share their contact information, or for you to capture their contact information, whether it be their email or their text. I mean, or their number. And then the second thing I would say that's really big on trust is offer them something. Offer them something for free that they find valuable. Right? Most people call it a lead magnet or whatever the case may be. In my case, it was an invite to a special event that's invite only to the cafe after hours, right? So this is when we doing like pop-ups, exclusive merch or something like that. Offer something exclusive like merch we had, special event, or if I had maybe a workshop or something free, or let them know, hey, I'm doing an IG live talking about this part of plant-based diet. If you got questions, you can drop in, right? So this offer something in exchange for the contact. If they feel like it's valuable, then they won't mind you contacting them.
Right. Now, so you actually bring up a great point. So the going back to the QR code, because not too many people are creative in that space to really feel, okay, let me go ahead and implement a QR code, and how can I tie that in with my text list? So when
Mhm.
people would scan the QR code, where would it lead them? Will it take them to your Superphone form, or will it
Yep.
take it to the website or anything like that?
Yep, straight to the form. So I had multiple QR codes, but that one that was taped, it was two of them that was taped to the POS. One was for Cash App because sometimes the POS, tech issues, right? So people still wanted to pay, or they wanted to tip and they didn't have cash, and POS was acting up. So one was for Cash App, and then the other one went straight to the default form or whatever form I created. So I just made a general Good Part contact list, and tagged them as they came in as a cafe customer or something like that. And then if it got more detailed, then I would probably add different tags. But yeah, I just went straight to the Superphone form, and I got their name, phone number, email, birthday, which was super helpful because then I can text them like, hey, I know it's your birthday. You want to start this next year off of your life on a healthy tip? Come through, grab a smoothie on me or
Yep.
something like that. So
Yep.
so that's
Yep.
what I had on my default form. And then there was something else I had to just make it a bit more personal. Like, yeah, it gave out all the info, but I think I had like an automated response to let them know like uh, that they were, texting me directly.
So now, with the information that you did receive from your contacts once they filled out the form, were you
Hmm.
using anything else to just improve maybe like customer satisfaction? Were you reaching out just for surveys or any customer feedbacks or anything like that as well?
Yeah, I did customer feedback. Oh man, I had one. I did a form asking what they liked most from Good Part and Company to find out if I should turn it up on cold pressed juice or should I turn it up on smoothie bowls or on smoothies. So I used that. I sent out a text for that, and then you have the Superphone link in there, and they just click the link, and it was just a quick automatic survey. So that gave me good insight on what I'm selling most and what people want more of. And then I used it again for recipes, like for flavors on a specific menu item, like a menu list. So the flavors of the juices, I believe I did a survey on that. But the one that really hit was which items do you actually like most, smoothies, juice, or smoothie bowls?
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. So no, that's great. I mean, this is great advice as well because we have many users who are in the in the restaurant or even the physical storefront space and retail space, and they're trying
Hmm.
to think of other ways that they can implement Superphone as well as SMS when it comes to their business. So, okay, so I want to pivot just a little bit more into you as a coach. Now,
Okay.
you also being a coach in the health space, how do you go about just integrating your expertise into the offerings of your cafe, if anything at all? I know you mentioned people will come in initially and you would just they'll have some questions and you go ahead and help them out there as well. But is
Hmm.
that where it really started from, or how did you really go into being a coach in the wellness space as well as having your own cafe?
Yeah, so it actually started right before Good Part and Company. So before I started the actual cafe, like I started the cafe as a pop up in my apartment for proof of concept. Before I started the pop up, I got certified as a holistic nutritionist. Now, it's absolutely not necessary to start a juice bar or any kind of health and wellness business, right? Retail. But I did it because I wanted to have like a lot more knowledge and information. Like I knew what I did to manage my plant based diet for years, but when you're dealing with like food and beverage, especially around health, people can be really fickle. They don't believe a lot of the things you say. It's a lot of misinformation or just a lack of understanding. So I wanted to be clear so I can break things down or really build out a menu that works well. So if I can learn how food works as medicine, I can put the medicine in the candy, serve it as a juice or a smoothie. So that's where it started. And when you do the certification, you have to coach people before you pass. So I had to take clients before I actually passed to show that I could build out, a diet plan and so on and so forth. So that's where it started. Then I did Good Part and Company and just used the info that I learned about the food and things like that and how to eat, put it in the menu. Then I realized people came in and based on what I was offering on social media, they started asking questions because they noticed that not only I lived it, but I had like books and things inside the cafe. So they just trusted Good Part. From there, we got to deal with Johns Hopkins. So that's a
Right.
highly touted educational university. So I was able to leverage my connections there to do live workshops. So that's really when it went up a notch. Instead of people just coming into class to ask questions, coming in the cafe to ask questions, I was like, I'm just going to put on a whole straight up class and workshop
Okay.
and introduce people to the plant based diet and did like different little things that people may be more interested in. And then I started noticing the space for what's going on with professional men. I'm on campus, so we got like a lot of people that work in education, administration, and then the professionals that's running around the city doing that thing in Baltimore. They started hitting me up asking questions, and then they would fall through to some of the workshops. So that's kind of what gave me an idea on who to focus on. With the actual health coaching.
Gotcha. Nice. Yeah, it's a whole different thing, of course, when even myself, I'm a little bit skeptical when I hear all these uh, areas of health that I can improve on, but it's different when
Mm-hmm.
you can actually ask someone specific questions on a one-on-one level, and the fact that you were
Mm-hmm.
doing it in person uh, is one of those things where people can just ask you specific questions pertaining to them, and once they get an answer for that, it just breaks down that barrier where people feel more
Right,
open and
right.
trust of any information that they get. So,
Yeah.
okay. Now, do you also use Superphone for your coaching business, or is it strictly for the cafe?
Yeah, so I use it for both now. I use the same number across both because I mean,
Mm,
there's no point in breaking it up. But what I did was I would I have a few different tags within my Superphone on the back end. So I would send out a text message to anybody who like maybe participated in a special event or purchased certain items, or I would just send out a general blast to everybody and let them know, hey, I'm doing a free workshop. If you're interested, just sign up for the event here. And then those folks who came through, then I would just add the tag to that, like, okay, this person was interested. So yeah, I definitely use Superphone for that. And then now I'm going to incorporate it on some of my other offerings, whether it be like a virtual event, because everybody that's coming across, maybe my personal profile, they can't come to Johns Hopkins, right?
mm.
They can't come to where I'm having the workshop. So I'll just capture that info there and then send them a direct link to maybe like a Zoom meeting or a webinar or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, definitely, you got to expand into the webinar space because that's going to be a whole different ballgame. But
Yeah.
it's important information, man. Even for myself, in the wellness space, it's just I know I need to do more, but
Mhm.
it's just it's one of those things where I need to hear it enough times to just convince myself, all right, you know what, it's time to take action. So yeah,
Yeah, that's what
now
I've realized. We gotta talk about it more.
yeah, 100%. So I also wanted to ask as well, how do you go about just maintaining all this? Because running a business as well as doing coaching as well as just managing a personal life, it can be a lot. How do you normally go about just balancing the demands between running the cafe as well as coaching clients?
It's challenging, Rob. Actually, it's really challenging. So the cafe is super demanding, but I knew I wanted to get into the coaching space because it allows me to make more impact.
Mhm.
With the cafe is localized. Like I can only help people who live in Baltimore basically, unless I'm shipping something. And because of the way we produce, we can't really ship, or we can't ship too far, right? Because of the timeline and shelf life and things like that. So the coaching, I really wanted to move into coaching and doing more digital products. So we made a coaching course for an ebooks for Good Part and Company, and we'll like send out text blasts or emails for that, and then managing the coaching. The good thing is all of it is based around improving your health and your quality of life. So nothing is kind of outside of, I'm not trying to do anything other than what I do in real life. It's just offering it in a different way. But it's really tough because the cafe is open for 10 to 12 hours a day because it's on a university campus. It's school and campus life is jamming all the time. So they're just going to be hours where like I have to change my whole call sessions and everything because I can't take the call. I got to be in the cafe. I may be short on
Yeah,
staff or something like that. I'm still trying to, still building up. And then it's a part of a school system, which is, it works on a school calendar. So there are predictable times where I'm going to have more free time for coaching or for hosting webinars because spring break is coming up or summer break is coming or winter break. So I can take off and focus on those types of things. But when it
mm,
comes to putting it all together, Rob, I came up with this thing where I don't really focus on balance. I work on alignment. So I call it work-life alignment. So I make sure everything in my life supports the work I'm trying to do. And then I make
mm,
sure all the work that I'm doing can give back to all the things that's important in my life. So whether it be like my friends or my family or taking care of bills. Like I can't short the work because I needed to work for the rest of my life, right? So I try to just keep those things aligned, going in the same direction, and not necessarily balance it where I'm not doing work or not participating in life much.
what advice would you give for anyone who is looking into starting their own cafe or food related business? What tips would you give someone who's just starting out? Would you say there's any niche development or research that they need to do on their end to just get a better feel for, okay, what is it that you're passionate about before you get started? Should people just strictly be chasing the opportunity? But what advice would you give for someone who's just looking to do somewhat similar to what you're doing, and really just starting somewhere and then just building upon that?
So with with food and beverage, if you're going to start a business, you got to know business. Like you really got to know your numbers. I was fortunate enough to have business before, but I never did food and beverage, so I wasn't really great at food and beverage. But I did understand business. Like some of the numbers and also like marketing and things like that. But you want to have a really good product. You want to make sure people are coming back for the product. But there's a certain point where you don't have to focus on the product so much. So when you're new in food and beverage, you're worried about, is my cupcake better than the cupcake at the other bakery, or is my juice better than the other juice? At some point, unless you have a secret patent recipe,
Mhm.
is really just like flavor, and then how good are you at the business. So I would say start small, know your numbers, and try to really get your costs, because the margins on food and beverage are not high.
It's
So you
slim. Yeah.
need to you really need to be on top of your numbers if you're getting into food and beverage. Now, two things that I've learned, Rob, just in the last 2 years. You either have to be passionate about food and beverage so you can push through with the creating a product, or you need to have a lot of capital so you can make money, because you need a lot of speed on your money in food and beverage. So if you have slow days, it impacts a lot of things, because like in my case, I'm working with a lot of fresh food and produce with a shelf life. So if I miss a day, if the school is closed or my cafe is closed, that's one day less than my kale was, aging on that
Mhm.
day, right? And I don't, because we use supplements and powders, but not a whole lot of it. We use a lot of fresh ingredients. So get your product to a good place, a good space. You can continue to improve on it, but really start to focus on the numbers, because the margins are slim in food and beverage. And yeah, I think that matters a lot. And there are some things you can do around like marketing, but I think the first things I would always say is just have a good product, and then start really drilling down on the numbers so you can make sure it's profitable.
Yeah. Yeah, man, 100%. Even the passion. I would say the passion as well is an important piece because it affected you personally, and
Hmm.
that pain that you felt personally was the driving and the motivating factor for you to keep going, even though it can be challenging just running a business in general. You're always
Hmm.
just reminding yourself of the longer goal and why you're doing it. So, yeah, 100%. I'm all the way with you on that. Now, okay, great. So, Quintel, before we wrap here, for any of our listeners who want to learn more, where can they find you? Where can they learn more about you as well as what you have to offer?
Yeah, so the website for the cafe is goodpart.co. And if you really want to know more, you can find me on Instagram at Harcum Holistic. So Harcum Holistic on Instagram is where I spend most of my time. And then also I just started a new podcast called Healthy Deposits. So it's a video podcast. So you can find it on YouTube. In a couple weeks, it'll be uploaded to all of the other podcast streaming platforms. But Healthy Deposits on YouTube, Harcum Holistic is where you can find me most talking health stuff, sharing more about the behind the scenes of Good Part and Company. And then goodpart.co is the website, and you can find me there.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thank you again for joining the SuperPhone Standard podcast. Thank you all for listening in, and we'll catch you next time. Have a great one.
Thank you.